Hey, Joey G's on the phone. He's from The Sopranos. He wants to defend himself against Page Six, and then I'll play you some workers being abused.
All right.
Yeah. Hey, Joey.
Howard, how are you, buddy?
Good. You know, I was on your side because my feeling is, Joey, let's say you and James Gandolfini weren't close. You came on our show anyway, on our channels, and you said, look, I wasn't real close with the guy, but he was a wonderful guy to work with, and he taught me, you know, a lot. Whatever you said some really nice things about the guy.
Well, thank you, Howard. You know, first of all, the last thing I wanted in the world for me to be a story at that time like this. Second of all, because I bashed the Post for coming out with those stories about what Jimmy was eating and, you know, gorging himself and his past things that happened in his life, now is obviously not the time to bring that up. You know, the guy's an icon. He's helped the disabled veterans, did a special on HBO. 9/11, he was downtown when that happened. It's not cast members. It's one guy that did this because I bashed him for giving them an interview and not defending Jim and saying, how could they write that? If I'd have known that they were going to do this story, I never would have given them an article. Now, you know, just to refute some of the things that the Post said, you know, I never, ever, ever had a PR person, not for a day, an hour, a second. I didn't need one. I did my own PR. Second thing is that...
Well, by the way, just so people know, you were being accused of... in real life, you never got along. James Gandolfini, this was according to them, that he didn't really like you. You guys didn't get along that well. He resented some of the things you were doing during The Sopranos. And therefore, it seemed opportunistic, according to the Post, that you were going around giving interviews when you guys didn't have a great relationship.
Okay. And I said, like you said, I said we were never close, but he did touch me in ways that, you know, he came to my restaurant when he was sick as a dog because the other guys were coming and to meet people, and he stayed for hours. And I never asked him because, you know, he was working hard. And he said, I heard everybody's coming. I'd like to come. And, you know, it was a rainy, cold night, and he was sniffling. Came to my wedding and spoke in front of people, which is probably not easy for him to do. And, yeah, he did, you know...
he was good to you.
It was great to me, and I would never, ever, ever... you know, when I went to... Listen,
Joey, was there a rift, though, between you and James? Like, you're citing some really wonderful, loving things that he did for you. Why, then, are they saying that some of the cast are saying that you guys didn't get along?
Jim, I never did we ever have words. I went to speak to him in his trailer because when I heard that there was a problem, and I thought it was from an Emmy situation, that I was sort of misled on the red carpet about a question.
What was that question? What happened? You were on the red carpet and someone asked you something.
Yeah. Someone said to me, do people in the show use the F word? And I'm saying, yeah, of course we do. We're a mob show.
Right.
Yeah. And they said, Jimmy too? And I said, yeah, of course, Jimmy. And what they were referring to was the actor who called another actor the other F word on Grey's Anatomy. Remember that?
What was the other F word? I'm lost.
Faggot, I think.
Oh, faggot.
Right,
oh, I see.
Faggot,
so you got kind of sandbagged.
Yeah, it didn't occur to me that they were referring to that. And I said, well, that's kind of a weird question, the F word. But so, and the next day in the USA, the article comes out, and I was mortified. I was freaking out. I was saying, what am I going to do? What should I should have just knocked on his door, you know, that morning and said, Jim, this is not what it meant. But I didn't, and I let it go. And I thought that was bothering him. And I went to his trailer, and I said, Jimmy, this is exactly what happened, and he understood. He never mentioned anything about doing interviews.
So that was the big rift?
Oh, well, that's what I thought it was. But, Howard, I never did interviews until I was off the show, until they killed me. Listen, everybody wanted to talk to me. I had a big season.
Right.
I was the big kill for the end. I wasn't doing...
But why would it be held against you for going out and doing interviews? I mean, it was your season. You were this character that got killed off, and you were featured. I mean, of course you would be interviewed.
Listen, the guy who did it, like, it's the same guy that did this with the Post. You know, he fed him the story, and he resented it. He's the type of guy who has a big bowl of ice cream in front of him, and he'll look at yours. That's the type of guy he is. You know, and everyone knows it. He's got a problem with me. He's got a problem with a lot of cast members that were doing interviews to Jimmy. You know, he feels like he's the only one that can do it. And don't get me wrong, he was close to him, and it was
Joey. Will you be at the funeral? Will you go to the service, or do you feel? You will.
Yeah, no, of course. Listen, do I want to be looked upon? You know, that story has been picked up by everybody across the nation,
right.
And you know, makes me look like a douchebag. And the last thing I wanted to be was look like a douchebag. You know, I just wanted to say that I didn't even look for these interviews. The first night, CNN, I gave CNN a quote. I shut my phone off. I went to bed. It was a fucking horrible night. But you know, the next day I said, you know what, I did have in contact with him. We weren't the closest friends. I did see him. They said I hadn't talked in 7 years. I saw him at a couple of functions where I talked to him, and he was very cordial to me. And why wouldn't I, you know, pay a tribute to the guy? I did know him. And like I said, with every interview, we weren't the closest of friends. But because the Post was, you know, I went after the Post, and I went after this guy for giving them an interview.
In other words, your initial thought was, it was kind of cruel to list all of the food he was eating and the drinks he was having in front of his son. While interesting, certainly, but you're saying it wasn't respectful, and you were critical of it, and then you're saying they printed this stuff to get back at you?
Well, not only me. I mean, they both did. This guy, for the cast member that I was saying that, how could you give him an interview after what they said about Jimmy? And then you had an opportunity. He was doing a big radio interview. And I said, the guy left the door open saying, you know, the cast member said, you know, these things that are being printed to him. Well, you should have just said, who's printing them? And, you know, you should have said, I gave you guys an interview, and then you come out with this story. I would have never done it had I known you were going to do that. And he let him off the hook. And, you know, I've had a problem thinking this guy was a friend. Yeah, you know, this guy was a friend. And all of a sudden he turned on me. And quite frankly, maybe it was because, you know, the attention, the work that I was getting in season 6. He's an angry guy, and people know it on the cast, and he has something to say about everybody. And all
right, so the point is, you feel bad, you feel you're somewhat set up in this, and that also that you, while you weren't the closest friend of James Gandolfini, as we all know, people work together all the time. They're not all close friends, but you were on good terms with him. You saw him at a couple of functions, and that you totally had the guy's back, and you weren't. This story is somewhat overblown.
100%. And, you know, like I said, you know, someone should have said, you know, it's fucking disrespectful, beyond bad taste, but, you know, to print these stories, to insinuate that the guy was eating out of control. You know, I'm sure he ordered for the table. I've heard it from enough people that say, you know, he would get this and that, just put it on the table, whoever wants it. You know, in Italy, you think they serve like Americans, huge orders of fried shrimp, prawns, mayonnaise. I mean, foie gras, you know, that served, you know, an ounce and a half. It's very rich. You don't gorge out on that. So, you know, it was just a bad situation, Howard. You know, everybody's picked up on the story. I deactivated my social media because of the abuse, you know, and this, that, and the other thing. And it's a fucking horror. I did not, the last thing I wanted is to be part of this story.
All right, Joe. You know, I hear you. Yeah, I know. And it's somehow you want to get the word out that you don't have those feelings, that you are upset and sad, and you didn't opportunistically rush to do every single interview.
And I did not. And the bottom line is, I mean, he left two kids, a little daughter, 8-month-old, who's never going to know him, and a wife that is newly married, and that's the real story. And I appreciate you letting me come on, Howard.
No, I'm glad you did. I appreciate you doing that. All right, Joey.
Okay, buddy.
All right, good to talk to you. Joey G.
Bye-bye.
I know that feeling when you feel like you're being painted as a douchebag. You know, I've always had that opportunity to have my own radio show, and I could straighten anything out with my audience. I don't know, you know, what the real relationship between James Gandolfini and Joey G are, but that sounds like a reasonable explanation to me. What do you think?
It actually is a trivial story when you get right down to it. James Gandolfini is dead. Right. 2 children have lost their father.
Right, and that's what Joey's saying.
Yeah.
And Joey seems to get that.
He's absolutely right about that this silliness around it is ridiculous. Who should and shouldn't be giving interviews.
Right. He had something nice to say about James Gandolfini. He said it, and that's it.
Yeah, certainly there was nothing bad said.
Yeah, I feel bad for the dude. Joey G. Like, really?
Yeah, especially if he's getting bombarded with, nasty comments for no good reason.
Yeah. All right.